Hello and welcome to BMC Discovery. In this video, we are going to take a look on how to create cluster in BMC Discovery. In this demo, we will create a cluster of 3 members. In this case, these are 3 members which we have selected. We have selected the coordinator. We have made sure that all the members of the cluster are on same version. The TKU version of the member is lower than the coordinators. They have all the same resources and they are on the same location. Now, let's take a look at the demo of creating a cluster. Click on Administration and click on Cluster Management. Click on the button Create Cluster. First, we will select the cluster name. Let's call this cluster as Production EMEA. Here you have option of selecting fault tolerance. Now, what does fault tolerance mean? Cluster work by sharing the data and the work in processing that data across each machine in the cluster. So if you have a cluster set up and working, but if one of the members have some kind of a hardware failure, it could result into data loss. To prevent that, in case of a hardware failure, fault tolerance has been built into BMC Discovery. To prevent the data lost when a machine fails, fault tolerance create copies of your data on more than one machine. So here, in case of a 3-member cluster, once we select the fault tolerance, you will have 2 copies of data. And even if one member of this cluster completely fails, there will be no data loss. You can repair your member, add new one, or choose not to add a new member. The cluster will continue to function successfully without any loss of data. So for this demo, we will select the checkbox of fault tolerance. Now here we need to add the member address of the other members of the cluster. Let's add member number 1 and member number 2. Let's click on Create. The cluster creation is not yet started. This page shows you that after you click on Commit Changes, a cluster would be created. The cluster and the members will be renamed, fault tolerance will be enabled, and 2 machines would be added into the cluster. Let's click on Commit Changes. We will see the message of cluster creation. Click on OK. Here you can track the progress of the cluster creation. Once the cluster is created, you will get the user interface back. Here you can see that the cluster is renamed as Production EMEA O1. The second member is renamed as Production EMEA O2. And the third member is renamed as Production EMEA O3. Let's log into the coordinator first. Because the configuration is distributed across all the members, you can log in with member number 2 with the same user as other members. So here you can log in with the same username system and with the same password with which you have logged in onto the coordinator. Here in cluster management page, you can see that this is now the cluster coordinator. The fault tolerance is enabled and cluster can continue to operate with one machine failure. These are the 3 members in the cluster. Let's take a look at the cluster related operations we can see on this page. You can click on Add Members and add more member into this cluster. You can select a member and you can remove it from the cluster as well. You can also change the address of the member, ping the member. You can also remove this member from the cluster. In fault tolerant cluster, if a member appliance is shut down, the cluster will continue to function. However, if the cluster coordinate fails or becomes unavailable, then you won't be able to perform discovery anymore. So if your coordinator is unavailable or broken, it must be fixed or a different member must become the coordinator. You can do that from here in Actions dropdown by making another member coordinator, or you can also do that from the command line in case the user interface is not available. You can also restart the services of individual member, and you can also reboot or shut down individual member from this dropdown. You can also disable the fault tolerance. If you disable the fault tolerance, then cluster will perform rebalancing. It means it will go ahead and delete the copies of the data it has on other members. We will discard this option for now. You can also enable the maintenance mode. Here you can also restart the cluster services of all the machines in the cluster. Let's click on OK. You can track the status from over here, and if you refresh the page of other members, the same banner will be displayed to you. From this cluster management page, you can reboot all the machines in the cluster, and you can also shut down all the machines in the cluster. Now let's take a look at the data. Let's go to Manage and Credentials. At the beginning of the demo, this coordinator had credentials, but there was no configuration in the member. But now this machine is part of a cluster, so if you go to Manage and Credentials, here you can see that the same credential is available on all the member of a cluster. Similarly, if you click on Add and select the credential, and if you create new credential and click on Apply, here you can see that this new credential are also available from other members of the cluster as well. Let's go to Manage and Discovery. Click on Add New Run. Enter the label, IP address, select this cluster for scanning and click on OK. As you can see, the discovery run can be seen over here. And let's go to the Manage and Discovery in another member. And you can see the same run over here as well. Once the scan is completed, let's click on the run. Click on the Success Discovery Access. Here you can see that the discovery run is completed and the discovery was performed by member number 2 called as Production EMEA O2. In addition to this, upgrade performed from one member also automatically upgrades all the member of the cluster. So if you perform TKU upgrade on one member, same TKU upgrade is performed automatically on all the members. If one patch is upgraded, all the cluster member patches are automatically upgraded as well. That's all in this session for right now. Thank you for watching.